time.
Well, I need to go and close it back up. We're not going to use the room in case someone does come back in. And let's just sort it out. So I'm going to go and close it back up, okay?
That'll be fine.
Ready to roll. So welcome to Third Tuesday Tea Time. We're at the Cape County Tea Party. Brian Bowman is the chair. I'm the secretary. John Abernathy, John, right there, is our vice chair. And treasurer, Barb Bernard. They're back there in the corner. So Brian's going to start off with some announcements just after we start with the prayer, led by Jeannie Inc., and then we'll say the pledge. So please stand.
Heavenly Father, great Spirit, great Creator, we appreciate this gathering tonight, Father, and we ask your blessing upon us. Please give us the good grace and the aptitude and understanding to receive the messages that we need to hear and to convey those messages with honor and grace, we pray in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Paul Becker, if you'll lead us in the pledge.
Attention to colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to have a real quick run through of my usual discussion tonight. We've got two good pieces of information for you. And so the last thing you want to have to do is listen to me for everything. Who said woo-hoo? Back on the table, we still have plenty of gas and flags for sale. Those are some beautiful flags. I've got one up in my garage. I'm planning on putting it out in front of the house here as soon as the weather changes a little bit more. And some books and so forth available for sale. I think we have some constitutions. If you don't have a Missouri Constitution, you should have one. That's the social contract we live under in this state. Probably ought to read that. That might be a good reading material if you're going to get involved in activism in the state. If you want it, if you haven't already got your 50-50 ticket, we have 50-50 tickets for sale. Who's selling 50-50 tickets? Susie back there is holding up 50-50 tickets. If you haven't got one, raise your hand, and we'll have her come around and see you. If you haven't been to our website, it's really simple, capecountyteaparty.org. Real easy to find. Just search up Cape County Tea Party. We're easy to find there. Also, you can't come to one of these gatherings without having your dollars separated from your wallet. So somewhere back there is a teapot, and we'd ask somebody to start that around if you got a buck or two to help us out. We'd appreciate it. We are not funded by the Koch brothers, as much as you may hear about that on the news. We get absolutely no money from the Koch brothers. Who's heard of the Koch brothers? You guys have heard of the Koch brothers? Has anybody else that consider themselves a Tea Party? Have you ever got a check from a Koch brother? No, neither have I. Okay, so you can help us out a little bit there. Tonight we're going to hear from a gentleman, Kurt Wagner. You heard all what you're talking about. You talked about the rendezvous and the survival skills workshop. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit about the primitive weapons and the survival skills workshop.
And it'll be about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we're going to have a good hour. Probably watch a video, if that's going well, with our main speaker for the night, and about how things changed in Colorado and how they're starting to change here. Let's see, we won't go through how the Tea Party started, but I think you guys pretty well know. Anybody know what the debt is today?
18 trillion.
And change.
Throwing your money around there, aren't you, Gene? Anybody look to see what the debt is over the last few days?
No.
I didn't look today, I looked a few days ago. It was 18,195 billion. Let's see, the debt on beginning of March, or at our March meeting, is that what that is there? Yeah. 18,152. So in 1 month, the debt's gone up $40 billion. $40 billion of new debt. And in January of 2024 is what they were predicting last time I updated this. $27.19 trillion. Let's see how we make it past that.
So anybody under age 20, stand up.
You're gonna pay.
You guys are going to be paying. So I would encourage your generation, you're over 20. I should have said 21.
We're saving your money.
But yes, the kids are going to pay for this, so please stand up and take part in this. We're not doing it for us. We're going to be long gone and dead, aren't we? So we're doing it for the kids, and if you can get the kids to get involved, that'd be great. I don't believe we have any of the miniature cards tonight. I think we've run out of those, so we'll skip that. After the meeting tonight, we typically go over to Beef O'Grady's. I want to invite you all to come out over to Beef O'Grady's and have some maybe adult beverage and something to eat and some fellowship with us and just hang out for a while after the meeting tonight. Also, we have a gun safe being raffled. If you haven't got a raffle ticket for the gun safe, it is a Centurion Liberty 12 gun safe that holds 12 guns, right? 12 long guns and has some shells for other items. I think it's good up to like 2,700 degrees.
Yes.
As far as if you have a fire or if you really keep your heat on. So if you haven't got your ticket for that, it's $5 a ticket or 5 tickets for $20. For some reason that's hard for me to say. Everybody knows about Center for Self-Governance. I believe in this room, if you haven't heard of the Center for Self-Governance, I implore you to take a flyer that's got to be back there somewhere and learn about the Center for Self-Governance. I'm going to skip my normal discussion of that tonight, other than to say this is how we keep the Republic. We're losing the Republic. If we don't fight and work to keep the Republic, we're going to lose it. So if we want to keep the Republic, if you don't want this to be the waste coming to this meeting tonight, the Center for Self-Governance is how we're going to do it.
And we have a level 1 class right here in this room on May
Second,
2nd,
Saturday.
and it starts sharply at 9 a.m. right here. Come and audit if you've taken it before.
Okay. I believe I'll stop there unless there's anything else that needs to be brought out that I have already skipped or forgot. Okay. All right, let's start with Curtis. Curtis Wagner has joined us in the County Tea Party and has been getting involved with it. He is very active in the survival area, and he and I believe his daughter is here tonight to talk about a couple of things going on there. Thanks. Thanks, Curtis.
My name is Curtis Wagner. This is my daughter Amanda. We have a small business called Four Corners Archery, and what we specialize in mostly is in primitive weapons. We are going to be hosting a survival skills workshop at the end of May. I've got some flyers here if anybody wants information on this workshop. It's a 2-day workshop. It's Saturday and Sunday. And we will be teaching people all different types of survival skills. You want to tell them some of the workshops we're going to be doing?
Yeah, sure. We'll be having all different types of survival skill classes like fire starting, wild edibles and medicinals. There will be flint knapping, several different courses on different kinds of primitive weapons, such as the atlatl, Berkshire dart, bow, tomahawk knife.
Navigation,
There will be
finding
navigation
water.
classes, water finding, shelter building,
Bug-out bags.
bug-out bags. Am I missing?
I'm sure there's probably some more. But it's going to be, it's not just primitive skills, but survival skills. So some of them are going to be modern skills, some of them are going to be primitive skills. Some of the things that we do specialize in, of course, we have the traditional bow. This bow, this is my hunting bow here. I use this, I kill deer, wild turkey, wild boar with this bow. It's hand carved out of one solid piece of wood, okay, made out of Osage orange. This one here was my wife's bow, and it's basically the same, but it has what they call a bamboo backing on there, which gives it a little more strength, a little more speed. And then the arrows that we use are made either out of wood or bamboo. This is a bamboo arrow here, and you know, later if anybody wants to come up and take a look at this stuff, I mean, you're more than welcome to. This is made out of bamboo. This is what I used to hunt with. It has a 2-blade broadhead on there. And in fact, I killed a pig with this one a couple weeks ago. This is a more traditional one. It's made out of bamboo, but it has the stone point on there. It has wild turkey feathers. It has the carved knock on the end. So this is a more of a traditional arrow here that you would find, you know, like several hundred years ago. These are what they call atlatls. Now the atlatl is a primitive weapon that was used as far back as 35,000 years ago. This was used during the last ice age when they used to hunt the woolly mammoths. And this right here is your thrower. This is called the atlatl. And then these are the darts that you throw with it. And actually the word atlatl comes from the Aztecs and means spear thrower. And this was used by every primitive culture all over the face of the earth. But what you do is you put the end of the dart into the notch on the antladdle, and then you hold it like this, and then when you throw, you come straight forward and you snap your wrist. And that's where about 80% of your power is going to come from, is your wrist. I've got several different examples of antladdles up here, all different types. I've got, this is a throwing tomahawk. This is what I use for competitions, for tomahawk throwing competitions. And this is actually made out of it was handmade from this guy in southwest Missouri, and he makes these out of a horse rasp. And you can see it still has the teeth on it on this side. But he hand makes these out of a horse rasp, and this is a really good throwing tomahawk here. Throwing knife, that's going to be another thing that we'll be talking about at the survival skills workshop, is how to throw a knife. This is my spear that I use for whenever we go pig hunting. We go pig hunting every year down in Texas, the last weekend of March. And you want to tell them a little bit about the pig hunts that we do?
Yeah, we like to go to a place called Texas S. We go down there and go pig hunting every year. And the way we do it is a lot like the way our ancestors did it. We hunt as a team. We will select a group of pigs. We will try to drive them towards an ambush area where we have other hunters set up. And once there's a pig that is injured, we all go after that hog to try to get it down as quickly as possible. But this way ensures that we don't leave any wounded out there running around to die on their own, and that everything gets used and there's no waste.
Yeah, we eat all of our kills. So, but I use this spear specifically for fighting the wounded ones, because they have a tendency to become extremely aggressive when you approach them.
Yes. You don't want one of them
To say the
taking you
least.
down.
Yeah, I had one knock me down a couple weeks ago. That was not fun. But anyway, so this is kind of the things that we do. Like I said, we specialize in primitive skills and primitive weapons. We'll be offering a workshop at the end of May if anybody's interested in attending. It's a Saturday and Sunday workshop. You don't have to attend both days. You can come for one, either or both days.
There's primitive camping sites available.
Yeah, we'll have areas set up if you want to pitch a tent, spend the night. You're more than welcome to. We're located about halfway between here and Fredericktown in a little town called Sedgwickville. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Curtis.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our speaker tonight has been an outspoken political activist since launching All-American Blogger in 2007. Since that time, he's been a contributor at the American Issues Project, Pajamas Media, and served as editor-in-chief at Liberty News prior to launching Missouri Torch. When did you launch the Missouri Torch?
May 1st, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. You probably get articles from me on when I send out the email on the Torch on a regular basis, fairly regular. His articles have been featured on nationally syndicated talk broadcasts like The Michael Savage Show, and he's a frequent guest on the #1 rated daily syndicated Dana Lash radio program. In 2012, our speaker was the recipient of the first Breitbart Blogger Award. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's speaker, Wayne Lester.
A little bit more about myself. Native Missourian, former Navy journalist, joined the Navy in 1990, served 5 years, 2 tours of the Persian Gulf. Still recommend going to the Persian Gulf. You can all join the Navy. It was great. Also, started All-American Blogger in 2007, Breitbart Blogger of the Year Award, and then in May 2013 started the Torch. A little bit more personal, very passionate about freedom. That passion can go a little farther than some are comfortable with. Former Democrat who may have voted for Al Gore. I say may have because when I say I do, my wife says, no, I made sure you didn't vote that year. Homeschooling father of 7 so far. Former atheist, recently baptized Christian.
Oh my God.
So, through the grace of God, that transformation.
Yeah.
To understand the left's plan for Missouri, and believe me, they do have a plan for us. You have to understand what happened in Colorado. 2000, George Bush wins Colorado. 2 years later, Republican Bill Owens, look at that, 63-34, crushes his Democrat opponent. I mean, that is a beating. And then 2 years later, this guy, Colorado Democrat Bill Ritter, wins the race for governor. And 2 years after that, the Democrats take the House and the Senate. So in 4 years, they flip the entire state government. 4 years. So what happened? Anybody who hasn't seen Rocky Mountain Heights, I have a question for you. What happened to Colorado? The answer I usually get is, people from California moved to Colorado. Turn the state blue. We'll take a look at that. This is from 1955 to 1960. Everybody's moving to California. And then California went nuts, and now everybody's moving out. But look, they're not just going to Colorado, they're going to Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, they're going all over the place. So it isn't that people moved to Colorado, because a lot more people moved to Nevada, and a lot more people moved to Arizona, and more people moved to Texas. So what happened was, there were a few things that fell into place. First thing, campaign finance laws were changed that really limited the amount of money candidates could raise on their own. It limited, I think state level was $250 from each person. So you could only give $250 to the candidate of your choice. After that, you couldn't give any more. After that, Republicans, because they dominated Colorado for so long, they were very arrogant. They were cocky. They only focused on issues that their base cared about. They didn't focus on any other issues that the rest of Colorado cared about. And what I want to clarify, I'm not saying they should address liberal issues with liberal solutions. They should address liberal issues with conservative solutions. They weren't addressing liberal issues at all. And they weren't addressing issues that the middle was concerned about. Only their base. And that upset this guy, Allie Yates. Allie Yates served as the president of Colorado State University for 13 years. During that time, he met a lot of rich people because he was constantly raising funds for the university as part of his job. Some of the people he met, Tim Gill, a multi-millionaire gay rights activist. Another one, a man named Rut Bridges, multi-millionaire progressive activist. Jared Polis started ProFlowers with his family, sold it, made millions that way, also a gay rights activist. And Pat Stryker, a billionaire progressive philanthropist. These four people became the Gang of Four. I didn't make that name up. That's what they called themselves. A bunch of weirdos. They would form what's known as the Colorado Democracy Alliance, which would later become just the Democracy Alliance. And these folks pulled in field generals from across Colorado, and look at who they recruited. Lynn Mason is the political director and government relations for the Colorado Education Association, or the State Teachers Union. Beth Gans worked with the National Abortion Rights Action League. Tony Becerro worked with the environmentalists in the state. Steve Adams was with the AFL-CIO, and Jennifer Brandenberry was the Colorado Trial Lawyers Association. So they brought in the trial lawyers, the unions, the environmentalists, the abortion rights people, and the teachers unions. And those were the field generals. And then they had some other people, progressive attorneys. They worked directly with the House and Senate minority leaders. They had other staff field coordinators. And all these people called themselves the Round Table. Again, I don't make up these Legion of Doom style names. This is what they called themselves. And they had one goal. Win. When they come into the round table for a meeting, they never discuss policy. The National Abortion Rights League did never come in and say, we need to start pushing abortion rights issues. Their whole focus was getting a Democrat in office. Because they felt that the most conservative Democrat was better than the most liberal Republican. And to emphasize that point, Bill Ritter, the guy who won the governor as a Democrat, was a pro-life Democrat. And they pushed him and got him in office because they felt he was better than the most liberal Republican. Now I'm going to try something different. I've never done this before. I hope it works out, but I've got a video that I want to share with you to build on what I've been talking about. So if this works correctly, we should have a nice video here on what happened in Colorado.
Three multimillionaires and a billionaire
The Republican Party is controlled by a bunch of bigots.
pushing a top-down, vindictive agenda.
The only way the bigots are getting learned is if we take their
Ted Gill.
power away from them.
Many of these people are multi-millionaires. If they can utilize our money to basically accomplish their social agenda, that's a great thing for them.
A cake shop owner in Colorado now facing jail time after he refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding.
This is how a tiny club of secretive elites assumed control over a state of 5 million people.
They made new rules. They changed the rules. And then they exploited those rules. There's a war going on.
They declared open season on conservatives, Republicans, anyone who didn't agree with their radical far-left agenda.
They want to tell me what doctor I can go to, what health plan I can have. That is the war on women.
They have passed legislation that has been anti-gun, anti-family, anti-energy development.
The colors for the flag is still flying high here in Fort Leavenworth, at least for now.
Being a survivor of rape, what would have been different if I had been carrying the weapon I was licensed to carry at night?
That's why we have the whistles.
I just want to say that actually statistics are not on your side, even if you had had a gun.
They are fundamentally changing our culture here in Colorado. This hill is a community. It's a community of people who like to smoke weed, have a good time. We need to legalize marijuana nationally.
I self-medicate. I ain't got on the planet yet, but, so I self-medicate.
I love myself and I love everybody.
It started with a plan to control the state legislature and helped pave the way to the White House.
Well, I tell you what, we've been Colorado after 4 more years.
Eventually preside over a sanctuary city.
We can't do deportation.
It's a story of arrogant elitism.
We have some of the same, backwards thinking in the kind of rural western areas. Educate the idiots campaign. Really insulting stuff.
No response tonight from former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg about his controversial remarks about Colorado.
And it's the story of where they're going next.
Cleansing a sickness from our souls doesn't come easily. It's gruesome. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Who is this person? Where do you get the kind of money? If they can do it in Texas, Republicans are doomed.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
It all started here in Colorado. And the Colorado model, as it has become known, could become your state next. I'm Michelle Malkin, and this is the story of the Rocky Mountain Heist.
Please want to give way to a pleasant afternoon for us around southern Colorado. Temperatures will be sitting in the 80s as you head along in
And the weather forecast shows for the next couple of days are going to be awfully nice to get outside, get those errands done. We're looking at 60 degrees for our daytime high on both Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday,
The mountain temperatures will be somewhat cooler. They'll be sitting in the 60s and 70s, except on top of the mountain itself, where they'll be sitting in the low 40s.
Temperatures that dark, but we expect them to intensify into the afternoon hours and eventually get so gusty that we could see some potential damage, much like we saw overnight heading into Sunday evening. Well, let's get to the forecast.
It's off to our east that we're seeing the heavier showers and thunderstorms. We're going to continue to see chances for those showers and thunderstorms.
And that is some non-stop news, starting with the news alert. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper now saying state lawmakers should consider gun control measures.
Just a decade ago, Colorado had 2 Republican U.S. senators, 5 out of 7 members of the House of Representatives, a governor, both houses of the state legislature, and almost every single elected official statewide.
Colorado is a place where people can come and unleash their human potential. That's why builders and miners and cattlemen and software engineers and brewmasters came to Colorado to unleash their potential. That's what Colorado was.
You might not recognize Colorado today. To understand the Rocky Mountain Heist, you have to begin with the Colorado model, an underground network of extremist liberal groups so secretive that veteran conservative lawmakers like Ted Harvey didn't see it coming.
There was no way we could respond. We didn't have the resources to
be able to respond, and the media was totally off guard. They didn't realize what had happened until after the fact. And then, of course, Fred Barnes wrote the Colorado model in the weekly standard. So that's how it came to my attention.
Well, Colorado, I'd always thought of as a pretty conservative state. And yet Democrats over recent decades have done pretty well there. And then I realized, after hearing from a couple of people, that the Democrats had organized in ways that were helping them enormously.
The Colorado model was being built by 4 massively wealthy Coloradans.
Tim Gill, Rupp Bridges, Jared Polis, and Pat Stryker. So it was key to have these wealthy funders. Now, it's a little embarrassing to Democrats. They didn't play it up as Gang of Four because they're the people who are always railing against rich people playing a big role in campaigns. And that's exactly what happened.
Where you look at Tim Gill and Pat Stryker, they revel in the fact that they are known nationally as the billionaires that took over and bought Colorado. They revel in that.
They became known as the Gang of Four. Tim Gill, a reclusive tech mogul, Rupp Bridges, who made his money on oil exploration software, Jared Polis, one of the richest members of Congress who sold his internet greeting card business for several $100 million, and Pat Stryker, an heiress so hidden behind walls of her estate that very little is known about her or her motives.
I don't think most people inside Colorado realize it. I mean, most people still have the foggiest idea what happened.
Gang of Four. It sounds actually very familiar, but I couldn't tell you.
I do not know who the Gang of Four are.
No, I've never heard of the Gang of Four. And the other person you mentioned?
I've heard the name Pat Stryker, but I can't tell you what it means.
I've never heard of Tim Gillis.
I have not heard of Rupp Bridges. Rupp Bridges? I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I'll have to go online and do some research.
You had this system that kind of happened, and it was rich guys who decided to bet on their horses. Left decided to buy the racetrack.
Rob Whitwer co-wrote the book The Blueprint, exposing the trail blazed by the Gang of Four to infiltrate Colorado politics.
The word that you come across again and again when studying the progressive or democratic strategy is infrastructure. Infrastructure is the blocking and tackling of political campaign.
And so they brought together a team. What they did is they pulled together all these groups to the left that previously didn't work well together.
Enter Colorado's largest and most powerful teachers union, the Colorado Education Association. Steps from the Capitol, it became the Gang of Four's war room. Inside these walls in 2004, they assembled some of the nation's most liberal groups and drew the plans not for a battle, but a never-ending offensive.
Working with the trial lawyers, working with the bond dealers, and working with this new group of homosexual activists who all realized all of their agenda moves forward if Democrats take over.
So what they decided to do was to put together a strategy, a political strategy that had never been used before anywhere, by creating up to 30 different groups to push ethics complaints and legal harassment, groups to do MoveOn.org type activism.
These were not new ideas, but they just hadn't been planted at the state level. And Colorado was the place when it was first done, and boy, did it work.
Democrats, with good legal advice, they were able to create committees that supposedly did not coordinate with the candidates, but actually did.
Overwhelmingly, they changed the rules, they changed the laws, and therefore they were able to exploit those changes.
Very much like a political venture capital fund. They said these are the returns that we want on our investment. The returns that we want on our investment are to win the state House of Representatives, to win the state Senate, to win the governor's race.
In 2002, Democrats convinced voters to pass Amendment 27, opening the floodgates to the millions the Gang of Four wanted to spend. This would take spending levels in Colorado campaigns to new heights.
And I remember the commercials vividly. And they said, take the nastiness,
That's politics. Vote for Amendment 27. Well, who doesn't want to take the nastiness out of politics? So it passed, and I haven't seen it more nasty.
Under the deceitful guise of campaign finance reform, Amendment 27 passed, and Democrats were quick to take advantage of new ways to fill their coffers. Then, Democrats enlisted a liberal court to help stack the deck.
The Supreme Court justices putting their people on the redistricting panel that drew the lines in a way that the Republicans couldn't recover.
Republican incumbents walked into a trap.
Everybody says that negative advertising doesn't work. They're nuts. It most certainly does.
And I remember being home in the kitchen with my then newborn and toddler and hearing off to the side on the TV commercials against me, which was unheard of. Unheard of in a House race at the time. It was amazing.
Pam Rhodes, running for a state house seat and mother of two, vividly remembers the viciousness of the attacks against her in 2004.
It was on a kids channel, and I heard something about, Pam Rhodes wants your children to smoke. All I could think of is people can't believe that's true, right? I mean, it's so crazy.
They were outright lies. So all of a sudden, these hand grenades came in from all over the place, and it didn't matter if they were true, it didn't matter if they were lies, it didn't matter.
So they had millions and millions of dollars that they were putting into this, and Republicans didn't have anything to match it, and still don't.
At the time, Democrats were last in registered voters, behind both independents and Republicans. But despite all this, the Gang of Four swept their Democrat candidates into power.
The State House switched from Republican to Democratic for the first time in about 40 years.
But the Gang of Four and their new organization, the Colorado Democracy Alliance, or CODA, were just getting started.
Instead of resting on their 2004 victories, they built a political machine to dominate the next decade.
Colorado Democracy Alliance. It is a very well-funded business.
The result was a campaign that never quit, an assault that was doing far more than winning elections.
The bigger picture is not just to win an election. It is not. It is to change the culture, to change America.
CODA's message was clear. If you had an R next to your name, you had a target on your back. Libby Szabo was defeated in her state Senate run in 2008.
There were groups coming in saying things that I don't know where they came up with. That is not what I thought. That is not who I am. I've been involved in that community for over 20 years.
And Republicans like Matt Needler, who they defeated in 2006.
My favorite one was a television ad on cable stations when I ran for the state senate that said I was weak on immigration.
When it comes to immigration, Matt Kniedler is a wet canoodle.
I would pin Congressman Tancredo as legislative director. Congressman Tancredo was Mr. Anti-illegal immigration. My record was very clear, and the Democrats felt that the best way to strike me down was to change what voters believed it should be, to say that I was too soft on immigration. So they ran ads saying I was soft on immigration. It was whatever it took to win.
The Gang of Four and CODA operated invisible to the outside world. No one knows how much was spent, or whether CODA's shadow organizations even existed from one day to the next.
There was an analysis done by the Denver Post looking at the 2010 race, and it was hopelessly complex.
Money was no object to Gang of Four member Tim Gill, as long as he could push his social agenda.
We have successfully flipped legislatures around this country from Republican control to Democratic control